and welcome again. Today we're going to talk about Mark 11, verses 12 through 19. And it contains two stories, the Jesus cursing the fig tree and the cleansing of the temple. So as the next day after Jesus' triumphant entry, they're coming into Jerusalem, and Jesus sees a fig tree. He's hungry. And figs are unique in that in the spring of the year when the leaves first come on the fig tree, oftentimes if there's fruit left on the tree from the previous year when it went dormant, the tree then immediately ripens off those last year's figs, and there are figs immediately as the tree greens up. And then a later harvest in the fall. And so Jesus goes up to this fig tree, finds none, and then he says to this fig tree, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it. And then they continue on from there, and they go to the temple. And when they get to the temple, Jesus sees the people, and they have this market in the outer temple, or the outer court. And he sees all this going on, and Jesus goes out there and he starts turning over the tables and chasing out the money changers, and he just moving all the stuff out of the outer court. And this is really a direct challenge to the priests who are in control of the temple, who have all this authority over the temple. And this chief priests and scribes, they hear what he's saying, and they're angry at him for destroying their money-making operation in this market that is set up in the outer court. But they're afraid of the people because the people are astonished at the teaching of Jesus, and so they don't do anything at this point. And when evening comes, Jesus again leaves the city and goes back to Bethany. Now, the temple has three courts in it. There's the outer court, the inner court, and the Holy of Holies. And the outer court was the place where the Gentiles could come and could pray. And Jesus' anger with the priests would be because in the outer court, they'd set up this marketplace and did not give the Gentiles a place to pray, a place to worship God. And so he was angry with how they actually inhibited and did not value people coming to God as much as they valued the prophet and his status and all the things that they enjoyed from the temple itself. So the priests are seeking for a way to destroy Jesus, to kill him, and eventually they will. Okay. Now the next day, as Jesus is coming back to Jerusalem for the third day, they're passing past this fig tree again, and Peter remarks to Jesus, says, "Look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered." And Jesus answered them, "Have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever has faith can say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and it will happen." Now that's an area that I struggle with, and I have trouble. I pray for things, and sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. It's an area that I really need to continue to grow in, and hopefully you'll continue to grow also in that area. And the last part of this is that Jesus says, whenever you pray, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father in heaven, who can also forgive you in your trespasses. I don't believe that God needs us to forgive in order for him to have the power to forgive us. Nothing that I can do empowers God to forgive. But if I understand the forgiveness that God has offered me and has given to me, that I deserve hell for my trespasses, and he has taken away that punishment and instead given me blessings of heaven instead, I can't see how I can possibly hold grudges against someone else and not forgive them. And if I do not forgive them, somehow that seems to throw a shadow over, have I forgiven, or do I really understand the gospel? Now Mark interweaves these three little stories, or these stories together, and they don't seem to have anything in common, but they do. The ESV Study Bible says that they are judgments against the religious leaders of Judaism, and that they are, in both cases, promising something good, looking like they should be providing something good, but then failing to provide, and in fact, many times hindering the very things that they're promising to forgive, or promising to produce. The temple was marred by this commerce and greed and replacing worship and prayer. And foreigners and Gentiles were only allowed into the outer court, but here the priests had set up this marketplace and hindered them from coming to God. Jesus cleared that out and set and taught the people. We have to be careful not to do the same thing, not to put our pomp and ceremony ahead of the gospel, and always make sure that we are bringing the gospel to the people, helping us, all of us, to grow and become closer and closer to God through Christ Jesus. Thank you.